Okay, I'm going to begin right now. Okay, promptly. Welcome, everyone. First things first. So this open meeting is, generally for anyone to come to, right? And so we address atrium issues during the atrium meeting, and the open meeting is kind of a whatever wants to join in and whatever we want to talk about is what happens. Yeah. Now, both Mark and Masad have sent me requests for things to do. Yeah, in the meeting. Mark, can you restate what you had in mind when you sent that email requesting?
Sure. Yeah. What I realised is that we were all getting into. Can everybody hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Great. We were getting into the atrium work.
Yeah.
And that was becoming very much of a focus of what we were doing. And I realised that for us to really successfully get into that, we still need to apply it through more of a groundworky understanding of how the systems work in us, so that we can get into the atrium work knowing how the pentagrammic structure works, the astral light, and the laws. And I know that it's just a massive area that I've
Yeah, we've got an hour. We can cover that.
Yeah. But what caused me to say that is that I was going through some of the older work, and we started to do work into the pentagrammic, and it was release one of a possible 10. Yes. And then we had also started to work into electrobics, but other things took over because of what was coming in at that time. Yeah. And it just occurred to me that we need to make a bit of space as to have some time for the more developed stuff. Pardon the sloppy language. The atrium work, but we also still need to do the development work within this, so as to be able to connect.
Right. So in essence, I think what you're saying is that atrium work would fall into the category of heavy personal development. And I would agree that that's actually the case. Whereas sometimes you need just a bit of knowledge and breadth with things. Yeah. Atrium goes very deep, very quickly, and deeper and deeper and deeper. Yeah. As you get into it very quickly. In fact, part of the reason why I was asking yesterday about that is to get a pulse on the pace for you all, because it gets heavy quick. It really does. But yeah, you're right. There is a call for a general play of things instead. But I have a standard. I have a rule in this regard, and it's based on the idea of humans are basically, aside from baby animals, humans are basically the only creatures that seem to gravitate towards being fed instead of going and getting their food. Yeah, think about this for a minute. If you were thrown into some island without even so much as a pocket knife, what would be the first thing you do? And you don't have to answer this. I'm saying that we become so reliant upon, the grocery store and people preparing our foods and eating out and all of this sort of thing, right? When all of the rest of the natural worlds do it differently. They go out and they earn their food. And so I agree with you, Mark, that we do need that kind of foundation.
Yeah.
However, and this came out of a process I had this morning in response to this kind of petition, where I was going through archives and saying, what fizzes? What should I do? What should I do today? What territory should I open up? From the 1970s to like the early 80s tops, before things started going in paths. And then it just occurred to me that that's not earning our food. Because each and every single one of us is capable of going after electrobics, for example, or going after the centers, for example, with a brand new today, fresh approach to things. Instead of just, reading an archive and going, oh yeah, wow, I get that. So I jotted down, and every once in a while I'll scoot this way and you'll see some writing on the board. It's not important for you. It's for me to be able to key back into what it is that I want to introduce this way towards. Okay. So it's just it's seven basic statements, 7 basic ideas. So if you see me turning around and reading them here and there, it's just to help me keep connected to it. Okay. Right. So does that sound reasonable? We start like human beings should, and we go out and we tackle and pluck and get our food for today. Does that work?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Good.
Just something that I'd like to add in on that. The reason why I asked for you to work into this was because, as you say, we have all these archives, or some of us do, yeah. But that is what it was back then, how it was written then, in the language then, and with what was going on there. And it needs a fresh 2022, as we're all meeting now. Look at those and take it from there.
Yeah. I agree. Very good. Okay. So listen, I'm going to ask you a question. This will be more of a dialogue. This is not putting anyone on the spot. All throughout different esoteric literature, and I'm talking the world over, not just Emin, right? But all throughout all of this, there's this concept that man or woman is a microcosm of the universe. Have you heard this term before? As above, so below, as inside, so without, this type of thing. My question to you is, who cares? Why does that matter? I don't mean that flippantly, who cares, but why would you care about that? What is it saying behind the curtain of the expression itself? Man is a microcosm. What do you suppose? Have you ever kind of cast yourself into that? Yeah, it's easy enough to go, wow, that's really profound, and then just brush right by it. Yeah, but what does it mean for your life? If you accept it as true, which you don't even have to at this stage, you can say it's a maybe, right? But if you think it's true, what does it mean, Masad?
Yes, I think it's true. Because in a body, there are different cells in different parts, okay? And every organ has a duty to do. For example, the heart cells have the work have the responsibility to push blood to other cells of the body and make them live. So I think in macrocosm, uh, every human is located at a different site. So those who are whose life is dedicated to help others, maybe they are located somewhere more important, and their duty is to help others. I think this is a plan from God.
I see. Yes, and what you said is true. But it's not the why it's important. Why is this important? What does it mean to you personally? This
Because
idea
people
of
have
microcosm.
different abilities. We are not the same. Some are more potent and they can help others. Others need more help from their
So I'm going to
friends.
share with you where I feel like you're coming from with this. Where I sense that you're coming from with this is that you look at your body and then you equate your life to something like a kidney or something like a heart or a liver or, you know, whatever. Like you have a particular function in the grand scheme of things. I want you to elevate to the position of your own God in this, instead of being a liver or a kidney or a heart or an individual cell. Elevate to the point where you are all of it, where you are in control of it. And this will get us a little bit closer to what I'm going after, because to me, when I read something like "as above, so below," or, you know, man is a microcosm of the universe, what it tells me is that, well, a couple of things. First of all, every force and every power and every energy and everything that exists outside of myself exists inside, and it's my job to be able to bring them under conscious control. Right? That's the point. That's the point of being a god in your own life, is to be able to bring all of these forces under your conscious control. Now, what do I mean by that? This brings us into if you happen to have, I think it's Journey Volume 2, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but where Leo gives his take on astrology, since astrology came up.
Yes, too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Journey Volume 2. And he approaches it differently than you'll ever see any other astrology book go. Yeah. He will look at things like, you know, the orbital pattern, how often it turns on its own axis, right? For planets, I'm talking about for the various planets, how, you know, what its day is like compared to our day, how close or far away it is from the sun, the colors it naturally radiates, right? Both physically and electrically, all of these sorts of things, because it's putting all of these back together in a very fundamental form. And I don't think when Leo was going through talking about astrology in this, that he was actually talking about astrology. I think he was demonstrating a principle known as correspondence. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. If I stand here and I try to jump, I'm going to come back to where I started, aren't I? Right? I'm not just going to keep floating off after I jump. Now, take a principle as simple as that and elevate it to the next level in yourself. What I mean is, that's a natural law, right? That we are bound to this planet, and that if we try, no matter how hard we try to escape it on our own merit, we can't do it. You see, I can't jump off the planet using just my own body. Now, I can get off the planet, but what does it require? A rocket, right? Or something to propel me. Now, I'm going after something called correspondence here, because we start off with this fundamental law that we're all so familiar with, which is gravity. And from that, you can extrapolate that in order to gain control and mastery over something so fundamental that you cannot leave the planet on your own physical body, right, just by jumping, certain conditions are required. The first condition is that you have to have some sort of external enclosure. You have to have something that you can travel in. And that something that you can travel in also has to be powered, right? Beyond just the capabilities of your own motor control. Are you starting to get where I'm going with this? Is that you can draw analogies to almost anything in the planet. And that's where your development in understanding really comes from. Yeah, Mahsad, you're not a liver or a kidney. You are the architect of the entire, or the orchestrator, I should say, the orchestrator of the entire complex. It's a bit of a different perspective, isn't it? When you start thinking of it in those terms, you think that the architect and orchestrator of the universe, God in creation, would need to have these various laws under good control, wouldn't they? Yeah. Gravity doesn't change. Thank goodness. Thank goodness you wake up every morning and the laws are still the same. Yeah. Can you imagine getting out of bed every morning with a ponder of whether your floor would even be there anymore, whether the sun was going to come up, whether you're still rotating this sun. We have this kind of natural stability because it is tendered to in the universe. Now, do you see where I'm going with being able to take these kinds of analogies? This is what is known as correspondence. Okay, if you haven't yet, and Kimberly and Sachin, I will make sure that you get access to what I'm talking about with the bits on astrology in the journey. Okay, Masad, I don't know if you have it or not, but I can also make sure that you get it. But I want you to have a read of it again if you if it's been a while, and look at the way in which Leo is going after it. Okay, it's not. I'll tell you what. The key word is therefore. Therefore, one would expect. Remember this phrase, therefore one would expect. And this is how, Mark, you approach groundwork. This is the only way to approach groundwork. Therefore one would expect. Okay, let's redo the alpha curial bet for a minute.
Yep.
A. Give me something about it that you observe, that you notice.
No, brain's gone. Oh, the boat floats a little. Yeah. No, brain's gone. Brain is complete.
All right.
It's made out of straight lines.
I don't want you to remember the alpha curial bet. I want you to look at this symbol as though it is not the letter A.
Yeah.
But it is a symbol for something.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I see is that it's made out of 3 straight lines.
Okay. Give me another fact about it.
Contains a triangle.
It's a unique. It represents a unique and first sound. Like it's a primary sound. There's nothing you can't do. You can't break A down into its components. It's
You're
not
right.
a ch
You're right.
or a,
because if you tried to spell it, it would still be AY, wouldn't it? A.
Yeah. And it shows evolution.
Huh?
It shows evolution.
It shows evolution?
Yes. Because of its shape.
Uh-huh. Upward pointing triangle, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's just say that. Give it a symbol. Upward pointing triangle. First sound. What about this? How it's open here.
Yeah.
And closed here.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a really bad look. It looks like Oper. It's Oper at the bottom. Now here's an interesting thing. There's another version of it. What is that big enough? Here, let's redo it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
There's another version of it. Now, if you didn't know the English language, would you ever suspect that that's also A?
No.
No, right? Absolutely not. Yeah. What do you notice about this one?
No straight lines.
No straight lines.
No, I take that back because you got this straight bit where the tail of the
Well, it doesn't though, does it? It doesn't
No,
go
it's-
like that. It curves.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
right, all right.
Yeah.
Now here's where okay, right. Clarity, did you end up getting this book?
I did, yes.
Aha, good. Right. I said before, don't worry about reading it. If you get a book like that, don't worry about reading the book. Look at the pictures, look at the symbols and things, right? But sometimes it is actually important from a being able to add things up, to have some stock, some frames of reference. Yeah. And so if you want to look into A, you don't necessarily go after Webster's, dictionary of, it can be used to define a noun like a person, right? Those sorts of things. But you can go into the early symbology of it. Do you recognize those symbols? Can you see them?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
see this? Yeah. This
One
is
of those looks like Paleo Hebrew.
huh?
One at the top is the Paleo Hebrew.
Paleo Hebrew. Yeah, you're right. Which actually wasn't Hebrew.
Yeah.
Do you know? It wasn't Hebrew? That was Egyptian.
Yeah.
Do you know what it was in Egypt? It was let's
Yeah.
see. I'm probably pretty close. Do you see that symbol?
Ox.
Apis bull.
It's the bull. Yeah.
Apis, APIS. Ah, that's where we get the term apis.
Ah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, right. Now, it became that, right? In Paleo Hebrew, and then later something sort of like that in Hebrew. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to put in
Right.
on that,
Aleph.
with
Huh?
the current Aleph in printed form, because you've got both the printed and the script form, the current, well, actually, it's been around for a couple of thousand years. It's a combination of one straight line and then curves on both sides.
Right. Almost like Yod on both sides, right?
Well, no, because with Yod, it's just a tiny little dash. But what caught me is that you got the early Paleo Hebrew is all curves.
Yeah.
And then you got in the Roman alphabet, you got it's all straight.
Right.
But with Aleph now, it's a diagonal straight line with two squiggles.
Right.
So it's curves. So it's a combination of curve and straight.
Yeah.
And again, that thing, and I don't have the answer, that causes me to think why. Why has it got a combination in one letter of curves and straights, where in Roman you've got the capital A straights and the lowercase all curves. But the important thing is in Hebrew there is no capital.
Right.
They only have one case. And so, yeah, that's interesting. So with Roman, you've got two cases, one straight lines and one's rounded. Without having capitals in Hebrew, they've merged it together. Something's caused it to merge because there is only one case. So it's a combination of the curves and the straights.
Therefore, what's the expression I gave you earlier?
Hang on. What did you say?
One would expect.
One would expect. It's all right. That's my way of saying it.
Let's start up here. Let's start up here. 3 lines. We'll take it with this one, and we'll go back to this. Okay. We're going after Alpha Curio Gamma, I suppose, right? Because we had Alpha Curio Bet. Yeah, get it? Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Then the beta and the gamma.
3 lines.
Yeah.
Therefore, please.
One would expect.
One would expect. We're
So
just going after the
it's
capital English
so
A.
into to the alphabet, and it's being dragged off there. I'm trying to drag it back into now. So if you've got a combination, straight, curved.
Hold on. We're going
Yeah.
after this one first. Okay.
Okay.
Just this modern version of it. Because
Yeah.
then we can trace the history of why it became so.
Sure.
All right. Start with where you are, not where you were.
Uh-huh.
Work your way backwards. Okay. So
Yeah.
3 lines. Therefore, I'll get you started on this one. Therefore, one would expect that there are 3 masculine influences. Now, why do I say that? Because all throughout nature, things that are rod-shaped, things that are lines, have a masculine aspect to them, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this shape has 3 lines. Therefore, one would expect that it has 3 parts masculine influence. However, let's look at this again. Because 2 of them are nearly vertical, one is exactly horizontal.
Yeah.
Therefore, one would expect a shift on axis. In other words, going from something physical and planetary to something electrical. All right. So there's a dual aspect to it. You
Mhm.
see? Yeah. Do you understand the idea in shift in symbol?
Yeah.
Okay. Closed at the top. Therefore, one would expect containment in the higher, release in the lower.
Yeah.
Sits about dead center, isn't it? Isn't that the way our teachers taught us to write it? It's
Yeah.
not like this, yeah? Sits at about dead center.
Yeah.
Therefore, one would expect. Welcome.
Hello.
We're bashing away at some groundwork.
Okay. Hey.
Therefore, one would expect. Come on. Just be open with it. Be free with it. You're not going to be wrong, okay? This is a thinking pattern. This is a pattern of engagement, not the steadfast rule. We'll move on. The first sound. Therefore, one would expect. I did say we're going to earn our food today, didn't I?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
And it isn't to you, it's to Razad. In Farsi, what's the first letter or the first sound? Is it A as well?
The first letter is Aleph. We
Aleph.
say,
Oh, it's
we
Aleph,
say
the
yes, we say Aleph, B, P, T.
Right. The reason why I asked that is that the thought came to me, although the alphabets change depending on the language as it goes along, the languages that I can think of, Hebrew, Farsi, English, Greek as well,
Yep.
they all start with that sound, a sound. And then whatever was required by the land that language was in, it then from that point changed.
Yeah. Because we are discussing the angel of this particular letter, aren't we?
Yeah.
Right.
But it's the starting point.
First sound, therefore.
Yeah.
Ancient.
Okay. Now we can start to get at something ancient. It's difficult to write like that. I hope you can read it. Square over like that. Yeah. Okay, let's run with that for a minute. I'm gonna bring you over to this and this, the original symbols for A. And that it wasn't initially Hebrew, it was the Apis bull. Do you know what the Apis bull was to the Egyptians? No? What a shame.
Not specifically, but I know it was the reason why the first set of 10 Commandments were destroyed.
Okay.
Was because the Aleph bull was made
golden bull
because from gold, and there was a lot of problems that came from that.
Who's sitting in front of Google at the moment? Anybody?
I've got it on my phone.
Jeffrey, would you mind just Googling Apis, A-P-I-S, bull? Probably Wikipedia, yeah? Something like that to do with the mythology and origins.
Okay. Yeah, Wikipedia came up.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Do you want me to read it?
Read the salient bits.
Yeah, I think it probably starting in the second paragraph here. The Apis bull was an important sacred animal to the ancient Egyptians. As with other sacred beasts, Apis' importance increased over the centuries. During colonization of the conquered Egypt, Greek and Roman authors had much to say about Apis. The markings by which the black calf was recognized, the manner of his conception by a ray from heaven, his house at Memphis, with a court for his deportment, the mode of prognostication from his actions, his death.
Hang on. Is there anything that's even more origin than that? It's getting into what the Greeks and Romans thought.
All right, gotcha.
Mostly invention.
Yep. Okay, let's try this. Worship of an Apis bull, experienced by ancient Egyptians as holy, has been known since the first dynasty in Memphis, while worship of the Apis as a proper god, at least according to Menethos, I can't pronounce that word, seems to, that's Aegyptiaca, seems to be a later adoption, purportedly stated during the reign of King Kachos of the second dynasty.
All right.
Probably want something.
Hang on, we'll find it. Okay, we'll find it afterwards. Let me give you the Cliff Notes version.
Okay.
Apis,
yeah, there's a lot. Yeah.
Apis was the progenitor of all creation to the Egyptians. It was the Apis bull. This is why it was sacred, because it came before. It came before everything else. And so now we've got another indication of ancient, of something original. You see, is your head starting to tingle a little bit because you get this idea that it's the letter itself came from the progenitor of creation, the first sound, right? In the beginning, the word was, that sort of thing. And it's also the first sound of the alphabet.
There's a couple things I can think of as the first sound, which is, does it depend on the way the sound is uttered or the way the sound is created? The way, our throat, our tongue, other parts of our...
Yeah, let me tell you something else. You're right. Here's the thing. This is a planetary expression. Do you know that in almost every language, the word for mother has something like ma in it? Ma, right? Mom. Ma in Chinese. Yeah. Almost every language. And the reason why they suspect is because it's one of the easiest things for a baby to say. It's one of the first things that a baby says. It has its mouth closed and then it opens it and pronounces ma. Yeah. Mama. You see. Not in Turkish? What is it? Anne. Yeah. Okay. Well, not every language, but yeah. The idea, though, let me finish running with this real quick. The idea is that now we have the addition of an M to it. which is a planetary motherly aspect to it, but the ancient, the first principle behind something.
Yeah.
Yes, Sachin.
Yeah, I was gonna say Sanskrit and Hindi also start with it's ba ka da, right? So that those are the letters. So it starts with A, and then Marathi, the language that I speak, has I, which is A, no M in there for mother. Like I
Ah,
is so there's a
right.
but no M, and Hindi is Ma, so it's
Ah,
still M and A, so it's
yeah.
there's both there. So this isn't just Egyptian; it's also another. You call it on Chinese. We don't have anybody Chinese here, but I can present from my limited knowledge of Hindu culture, which is also considered to be pretty old, 4 or 5,000
Yeah.
years old ish.
Yeah. Right. We're on not necessarily so much about the letter. I'm trying to show a method of approach. Okay. What was the key phrase from earlier?
It's the original or the first one, or
No, the key phrase from earlier that I
Therefore,
asked you
oh,
to.
it's therefore.
Therefore,
one would
what?
expect.
Right. Therefore, one would expect. Make this your mantra. Mantra. Interesting. Make that your mantra. Okay. Therefore, one would expect. And I'm not saying don't worry if you're right or wrong, because if you cast your faculties in this fashion towards something, eventually it's going to accumulate enough weight where you can go, aha, yeah, I get it, right? Because you get all of these little aspects coming from all sorts of different areas that all seem to point to one general kind of idea about something. Now, I brought it up in terms of Alpha Curiobet because this is, for me, for a long, long time, this was one of the most puzzling aspects of what Leo put out, right? This idea of an Alpha Curiobet, an Alpha Curio Beta. Now we're doing Alpha Curio Gamma, Alpha Beta Gamma. I suppose it would follow that, right? But we're earning it for ourselves. You see, most of the time, people will take some information like that and they'll go, oh, wow, I need to memorize this. Let me tell you, you should know this already. I'm sure you do. But memorizing something and knowing it are two very different things, right? Who's gone through this before? Who's worked out why these letters, right? I mean, we all know them, don't we? B, blood, right? C, emotion. D, diminishment. E, of God, to God, or serving a godly purpose. It's babble and nonsense unless you can work it out yourself and know why. All right. You might as well just be randomly throwing darts at a dartboard and coming up with key phrases unless you can understand why. So this goes back to what I said in the beginning, right? We're going to earn our food. We will do groundwork in this fashion, but we're going to do it our own selves. Yeah. And you might come up with a slightly different Alpha Curiobet, but guess what? It's going to be yours in the end. It's not going to be something you've memorized. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I started on about this idea of the microcosm and why it's important. It's because if within us, if within this complex and this life and the various spiritual aspects that animate it, is every force in the universe, and as the gods of this complex, we have the ability to learn about those forces, to be able to control them, to be able to use them in the way that we were designed to be able to do. And the process of discovery for that is to look at the external world, to look at the natural world, and use the expression that I gave you before. Therefore, someone, please.
One
I
would
would
expect.
expect.
One would expect. Therefore, one would expect. You see, that's the biggest, I should say that is the most basic groundworking expression that you should memorize in that regard. Because you can look at something like, wow, I'm stuck to this planet, right? Even if no matter how hard I jump, I can't escape it. Therefore, one would expect, well, you can say one thing, everything returns to the source of its arising, couldn't you? You could derive that law from it. Yeah. What else can you derive from it? That it takes an outside influence to escape the confines of the planet, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Therefore, one would expect that it would take an external influence, external vehicle, external force to escape the confines of the planet. See, what I'm trying to do with you here is I'm trying to have you take things that you see in the physical world and apply them to your own inner psychologies. Okay?
Okay.
Give it a shot. It'll open groundwork up for you. Let's see. The second thing I have written down, I think this actually applies, is a man either makes his own world, or woman, I should say, or lady. A man or lady either makes his own world or is pulverized by the worlds made by others. What do you think of that?
Could you say that again?
Yeah. A man either creates.
Could I interrupt? I just had one point before we go into it.
Please. Yeah.
So I have this kind of core belief about expectations, and I kind of go in with saying I don't owe anything to the universe, and the universe doesn't owe anything to me.
True.
So I have no right to expect anything. I was just thinking through what your core lines like. Hey, therefore one would expect. Maybe we should change to therefore it stands to reason.
Okay. If that works for you, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
It stands to reason is fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. It's the same sentiment that I was coming from, so that works.
Cool. Thanks.
For sure. Yeah. Right. A
Something-
repeat. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just say?
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing that several times this phrase has come up, right? And every single time, I
know.
couldn't remember it. I just could
No
not
one can.
and find a bit of paper. It just wouldn't go in and stay in.
The reason why is because you're precipitating the white gold.
All right, change sides.
Yeah. By
Okay.
being positioned the way you are, you're having that. Now you know. Now you can feel
Yeah.
it. What the difference is, right? It's not
Okay.
hostility. It's binding. It will
Right.
lock into you, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right.
Okay. So forgive I didn't make this gender neutral. This is the way it came through. A man may either make his own world or he is pulverized by the worlds made by others. In other words, if you cannot be the miller, you must be the grain.
Hmm.
You understand what that means? Sachin, you said that you have no responsibility to creation, or I'm going to paraphrase, and it has no responsibility to you. But what do you have a responsibility to? Or is it an expectation?
Expectation. I didn't say responsibility. In fact,
Okay.
on the responsibility, I feel I have a very high responsibility to creation.
Yeah.
But just because I have a responsibility and a duty, I shouldn't expect anything done. Like just because I feel that I should deliver what I'm responsible for, I don't have the right to expect anybody else to deliver on theirs. There will be a group of people or situations or whatever organizations that will continue to deliver their responsibilities to varying degrees. The ones that keep delivering will rise to the top, kind of what you were saying, right? If you continue to deliver, if you continue to do what your responsibility is, if you continue to do your karma over a period of time, you are going to be the king. It'll depend on your vision. It'll depend on your abilities, innate abilities. It'll depend on your intentions. Sure. But if you keep doing the right things, if you keep doing your intentions, if you keep planning through, there is nothing that can stop you.
True.
That's sort of I'm kind of paraphrasing what you were saying in terms of it's if you have intent, if you have goals, if you have vision, if you put in the work, then you're going to take over. The people who don't, people who sit by and observe, and people become the audience, sad to say, but they're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, right. because memorization is not the same as knowing, is it? Please, for those of you who are and have been long time Emin members, understand that this is not an attack against anything that the Emin did, okay, or anything as far as like, you know, the archives, those sorts of things. Because really, when you read one of the archives, what you're really reading is Leo's process of doing this. Okay, he didn't put out the archives to teach you anything. He put out the archives to demonstrate the process of how to get there. Sometimes there was quite a bit of pieces missing, like, you know, how do you get from A to D? How do you get from A to G, you know, without going through B, C, D, E, you know? But that was the point of them. It's only later that people started trying to take them as though they were truth.
Scripture.
Yeah, right.
Definitely. Scripture is a term that turned up in me a few months ago. That's how people treat it.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing to tie with what you've said is that when Leo went to reapproach something that he had done 10 years earlier, it would be an updated version.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the danger of what I refer to as people having the view of Emin scripture, is that if they are not aware of the latest time that Leo worked into it and someone else is, then there can be a bit of friction there. Is that people say, oh, but Leo said in such and such a day.
Yeah.
And go, yeah, but he said it in this time when he worked in it again. And it's a dangerous thing. And, you know, the way that we look at reading archives is to get the flavour of it.
It can help with that. It can help you get on the frequency of things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if he's working into specific dynamics of how things work, then that's different. But again, even that was just how it was moving through him at that time and how it was written down at that time. And it's not the final version. Things evolve.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at least for me,
and things evolve on the shoulders of what's come before.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can't always just get to point Z, right, the omega of something, without having traversed the distance between.
Yeah.
You know, you take one swing at reincarnation as a topic, for example, and you glean some things out of it. And then you put it down, you move on to other things, you come back to it later, and you're going to get more depth each and every time that you pursue something. Yeah. So, right. We're getting close to the end. I'm going to pick a couple that I want to. These are just thoughts, okay, that came to me this morning as far as a way into things. Mm-hmm. Seek to adore in order to know. That's another secret of groundwork. If you can jot that down, seek to adore in order to know. What do I mean by this? It's more of an approach. Instead of intellectually bashing away at something like we tend to do in our world these days, have that feeling towards it. Have that feeling of love towards it. Have that sentiment is the right word, not necessarily love. Have a sentiment towards it. And it will open up to you more so than if you bash away at it intellectually for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Okay. That's one of the, probably an elevated method to work into something. If you want to know about the natural laws, pick one and fall in love with it. Yeah. And I don't mean like the law of 3 or whatever. Those are just words. Pick something that you observe. You know, I had a very profound moment a couple years ago. And I was just sitting in my backyard and looking at a tree that was in the backyard. And the more I sat there and the more I looked at that tree, the more I started to see, the more I started to observe, right? I started looking at its bark, for example, and I started looking at the shape of its leaves. And I had to go up, it was in some distance. I had to go up and I had to actually look at one of these leaves and hold it and touch it and fall in love with it and understand, you know, this beautiful pattern within it, and it means something. And then the tree revealed what it knew to me in that regard about itself. You see, but you can't understand a butterfly by picking it apart, right? By chopping it up into a bunch of little pieces. You can't understand a flower by pulling all of its petals off and, you know, trying to rip it open to see what's in it. You understand a flower, you understand a tree, you understand a butterfly by having a sentiment towards it in that regard. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say with this one. It's a different approach. We have just, you know, the scientific mind of from the Industrial Revolution onwards definitely gave us a lot. It gave us a different approach than what we were used to, but we sacrificed the old ways for the new instead of incorporating new with the old. Yeah, people used to just fall in love with something and it would reveal its secrets to them. One last one. Inspiration and will converge into certainty. Inspiration and will converge into certainty. What I mean by that is that you have to have these kinds of ingredients. People in spiritual practices, they have this thing called faith, which generally speaking is a replacement for something that it should be. Usually when a person has faith, it's because they haven't done the work to know, right? And they just have to believe it because it helps them feel better about something. But in this case, we're not going after faith. We're going after a certain type of certainty about something. And those are derived from inspiration and will, the combination of inspiration and will. Masad, I wanted to read what you had sent today, but there's not time, and I think it's slightly different. So we can do it another time, right? But it does tie into this sentiment here, inspiration and will, because if you want to succeed, it has to be your first thought in the morning. It has to be the last thought you go to bed with at night. You know, what this drive for yourself is, that's the will part of something. If you want to understand God and creation, it has to be your absolute passion in life. And you also have to have the ingredient of inspiration. Don't get bogged down. Yeah. Scientists oftentimes will have the will to understand something, but they won't have the inspiration to do it. All right. Was this okay?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
Just get something out of it. I think it's a different way of approaching groundwork, and I like the idea, Mark.
Yeah. No, it's a good way. No, yeah, I'll just run with it.
Yeah.
Rather than just saying, right, we're going to be working into the centres tonight. Yeah. This way of doing it is much more engaging. Yeah, it goes deeper, and it opens things up, because when it's one then looks at some of the laws into what we've done tonight, it then starts to create a whole weave. Yeah. So the way that we've done things tonight, I think is, yeah. Please, can we have some more?
Right. Yeah. Just to kind of close something out, I'll give you a bit of a ponder, because I think maybe not Masad, but everyone here has had some electrobics with me, right? Electrobics doesn't work the way you think it does.
Sorry, I don't know even what it is.
Okay, it's a series of exercises that you can perform using various basic movements that enhance, cleanse, clean, charge, regenerate, and rejuvenate the aura, etheric, your electrics. Okay, it's called electrobics. Now, it doesn't work the way you think it does. You don't have to do this silver to silver, gold to gold, the pairing of the ways. You don't have to do this to magnetize your hands in a certain way. All right. I can do it without having to do that movement because I have the link to it. I can literally here discharge them. Literally now they're charged back again. You don't have to do the movement. The reason why it's more effective to do the movement, especially in the beginning, is because it creates what's called a symbolic link. Because along with this movement, you have to have the codings, don't you? That the right hand is silver or positive, the left hand is gold or negative, reversed for ladies, right? You have to have that coding. As you do this, you have to have the coding that you unwind out of the solar plexus, which is where your soul lives, right? To get rid of certain things. You have to have the coding of the types of electrical influences that go throughout the body, around the spine, all of these sorts of things. And you're giving it physical expression to something that you can literally do electrically only. Yeah. You can stand here and turn into an electrical butterfly, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Dragonfly. I can stand here and do that without a single movement. But in the beginning, the movements help. Okay. So electrobics, if you understand the inner workings and the electrical systems of the human, you don't need all of that. It helps to learn it, but you don't need all of that in the beginning. Okay. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because I want to alter the way that you think about things in that regard. That you don't have to have these particular patterns of behavior in order to get to what you're trying to get to. It's okay to get to it on your own in your own way. All right. It's okay to experiment. I guarantee you, no God is going to come slap you on the hand if you're wrong. Okay? If you're wrong, or I should even say if you're incorrect in the way that the universe works, wonderful, because at least you made the effort, whereas, the other 9 billion-ish people didn't. Yeah? And that just means that you will probably get it right in the end. So be free. Be free, ladies and gentlemen. Please be free. All right? Nothing is doctrine. Experiment with your life and love it to know it. Okay?
Sure.
All right. Thank you all so much. I will see you next weekend, and feel free to reach out at any point in time this week. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Uh,
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye.
Pierce, would you please, Pierce,
Yeah.
would you please send the astrology for me also? I don't have any idea about it. You mentioned earlier.
You got it. Yep.
Thank you.
Sachin, Kimberly, do you want those as well?
Yeah. I'm skeptical, but I will keep an open mind.
Okay.
Yes, actually.
Thank you. Bye bye.
All right.
Thank
Bye for
you.
now.
Bye.